What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grindline Podcast. You're listening to episode 206. I am your host, Greg. I'm here tonight with Ryan, and it's been a hell of a 24 hours, Ryan, but how are you tonight?
Part of me would like to say that I'm relieved, which I am, but I know that we'll be talking about this further, so I won't get too crazy into that. But overall, I'm pretty good. Wings are on right now, which is mildly disappointing. So because they're losing at the moment, but overall, they're playing a pretty good hockey game midway through.
I was going to say they're losing, but they're not like losing. The score is 1-0 off of a quick blast on the power play by Dougie Hamilton, who sucks. I hate him so much. But he scored. But they've kept up very, very well with the Devils, and Robby Fabbri's back. We'll talk about that too. But he's looked fantastic so far. But I'm good. I mean, work. My wife quit work, and so now I get to work 5 days a week from home, and get more work done. I don't have to just spend 2 days watching the kids, so I'm good.
She's taking on the stay-at-home role there? Is that what's going
on? Yes. She will be home with the children. It is what she wanted to do, and she can do it now.
I haven't hit that threshold for Chelsea to have that option, though. She already just said the other day that she couldn't do it because we've both been home on paternity and maternity leave the last month and a half, almost 2 months now.
Yeah, I waited until I was at my current job for 4 years. 5. This is year 5. So I'm like, I'm good enough and you can go. So
nice.
We have a show because we spent, several of us spent the last 24 hours in panic mode. Because as you all know, the Detroit Red Wings waived Jakub Vrana. And then the entire fan base collectively lost their minds. If you listen to my 5-minute major on it, you kind of have my overview of what my idea is. I didn't lose my mind. I was just kind of confused, considering that he just came back from players' assistance. He was going down to Grand Rapids to get his conditioning stint in. It was originally supposed to be 3 games. They said he'll take the full 2 weeks, and then they waive him. And I figured, well, you could have waived Gustav Lindstrom, you could have waived Jordan Osterley, you could have waived Adam Ernie, and I don't think there would have been any chance that those guys got picked up off waivers. I thought maybe there was a chance that Vrana got picked up. There were about 8 teams that could do it without having to make trades. They would have had to maybe assign someone to the minors, use their LTIR pool, or they just had straight up cash to do it. But he did clear today. So, I mean, people got my thoughts, and I'll add on later, but I kind of wanted to get yours just like from the initial announcement through today, how you kind of walked through it.
I mean, my initial reaction was, what the hell is going on? I was driving around Metro Detroit when it came through. So I had notification and text messages coming through that I hadn't even checked until about a half hour after it happened. And we all thought the writing was on the wall for Adam Ernie. And by we, I mean, like, I think everyone that's a Red Wings fan for that matter. And it didn't happen, which is still a bit mind blowing because that's who Fabbri was announced to be in the lineup for tonight. So we thought that just made the most sense because we knew that with Vrana coming back, he's on his conditioning stint. We knew that it was going to extend. It was being extended for the full 2 weeks, which meant that he could stay in Grand Rapids, but they didn't have to put him through waivers. So we thought, yeah, makes sense. Ernie, it was a good run. Have fun in Grand Rapids. But no, that wasn't the case. It was Vrana, who is in the lineup tonight, which is actually, I think, a positive sign, even though he did just get waived, along with Alex Nedeljkovic, who's down there as well on a conditioning stint. So now we're all like, oh, shit, he's getting waived now, too. But like anyone else, it was just a straight up shock because we were talking about it before. Like, the Wings need a pure goal scorer. That is what he is there to do. Jay Fresh has posted several times over when we talked about it. He's the number 2 5-on-5 goal scorer in hockey.
Yeah, he has the second highest goal scoring rate at 5-on-5 behind only Austin Matthews. And that's it. Pretty good. He's what Max called him. He's an offensive game breaker. That's what Jakub Vrana is. He basically scores goals at will.
Yeah, 22 goals in 30 something games? Is that what it was?
Yep.
So they need it, obviously. But it is what it is. I mean, he did clear the waivers at 2:00. I think every Red Wings fan that has a Twitter was on Twitter right at 2, seeing which reporter was going to break their email of waivers first. And I think it was reporter Chris that got it pushed out there right away. I mean, he's in the game tonight. He's down there with Ned. Looks like Cross Hannes also made his return this evening. So now we're kind of in a wait and see mode, it seems like, to like what could happen next. But I don't know. I hope is going to be in the lineup here soon. I mean, he can still be son of a bitch. And now Detroit's down 2-0 after another power play goal. But does he come back? That I think that's where we're at now. Is the bridge burned with Steve Yzerman in the organization, or is it hey, we know what's going on. We're letting you take your time to get your shit together. I mean, that's probably a harsh way of almost putting it, but it's kind of how it seems to be right now.
Asking Ali, who's down in Grand Rapids, he's at the game right now. I asked him how Vrana's looking. He says kind of slow and kind of lost. But that's basically what Vrana himself has said. He has made the decision that he needs to be down there the full 2 weeks. And then after going a little further, apparently the Red Wings management knows he needs to be down there for longer. And I said, it'd be nice to have him by the beginning of February. I mean, if you look at, like I said, how the Red Wings are playing now, and now with the injection of Robby Fabbri, that you think that maybe it's not necessary right now to have him back. But if you want to push, having that piece is very important. I think then you shuffle your lineup a little more and you have an even deeper team at that point. So am I happy he passed through waivers? Yes. But like you said, it's the what's next. So do they try to trade Jakub Vrana? Because again, people during the whole freak out, rumors start going around. People start saying stuff that they have no backup information for. Washington's fans come out and say he was a problem in Washington and had all these issues. And that's why
that one's been around since the trade, though.
Sure. But it was basically said that Detroit was made to take him in the Mantha deal, because it was basically an attitude issue for an attitude issue. Now, if that's the same case, well, then, I would have had a hard time seeing him extended, and he got extended. And again, he's a game-breaking goal scorer, but that only takes you so far if you mess with the entire locker room. Could he be traded? Absolutely.
The other interesting one has been the buyout option, which I think wouldn't the Wings have to specifically state that is being placed on waivers with the intention of terminating the contract? Doesn't there also have to be specific reasons for that?
It would have been placed on waivers for purpose of termination, which would not be a buyout. That would just be canceling their contract.
Buyout. I didn't mean to mix those up.
Yeah, the buyout window that opens up it's a while, 6 months, I think, until the buyout window opens up. So you've got a long way to go there. But yeah, it would have been waivers for purpose of contract termination, which would be a completely different thing.
Right. And doesn't that usually have to be either an agreed upon thing or something that happened? I could be completely making that up, but I thought there had to be a good reason for it.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look, but I don't think you can just randomly terminate a player's contract and just be like, I don't want you anymore, because then teams would just be doing that left and right. They wouldn't be waiving people and sending them to the AHL. They'd be just terminating their contracts. So if those 8 teams that could pick him up didn't, maybe because they were too close to the cap and didn't want to go that far, maybe they would trade a piece for him. I don't know. But looking at his numbers, and like you said, he's only played a handful of games this season. He was injured last season up until the end. So you know what you have in Jakub Vrana. You know what he can do. You know his potential. You know that when you insert him in, he's going to go out and score goals. But like you were saying offline before we started, that only helps if he's in the lineup. And he hasn't been in the lineup. So what good is a 40-goal scorer doing for you when he hasn't even played in 10 games yet?
No, I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not like he hasn't made an impact when he is playing, because he has. He's got, after the trade from Washington, he had 11 points in 11 games. Now, granted, he had 8 goals, but 5 of those came from one game. But he's come out and made an impact. In second season, this is the COVID shortened year, right? No, I'm sorry. That was 2021, 22. Again, he only played in 26 games, had 19 points, but 13 goals. He had 2 points in 2 games this season before entering the program. So we know that he's out there for a reason. That's to put the puck in the net. And we're seeing tonight that Detroit's been controlling play, but they really haven't had any true threats in terms of scoring opportunities. They've had a couple, but nothing like to wow you or make things truly happen, I guess you could say, for lack of better words. But I don't know. I want to see him back up here, but now it goes back to the loans comments. Like, who's he going to play for? Because it's Berggren and Velino and Soderblom would be your easy way out, if you will, because they're all waiver exempt.
Sure.
But at the same time, how do you justify that, especially with the production that Berggren's been putting up? Soderblom's got a 4 or 5 game point streak, or did that just come to an end? I think he's like 4 or 5 straight now. If he hopefully can get another one tonight. I mean, they're not a liability defensively. Velino's out there more often than not defensively as well, but he's also helping drive play offensively, and he's able to go out there for PK work. Berggren's showing that when he's got the puck, that the magic's going to happen, which is kind of what we assumed when he would come in anyways, because I've always called him the Zetterberg light with his playmaking and his hockey IQ. But I don't know. I mean,
I would say that
argue, but he's a center.
I would say Suter.
But he's a center.
Sure. You flex someone else back to center because you've got Rasmussen, you've got Veleno, you've got Larkin, you've got Kopp. Fabbri has played center previously. Sonny's played center. So I think it's easy to make room there.
Yeah. But I mean, again, now we're also going to talk about like what's going on with Larkin's hand. And like, is he healthy enough to keep going at center? Has he been there tonight? I've been off and on being able to watch. I haven't been able to actually see how many draws he's taken.
I think so. Last game, I believe he took 4 draws. So he's starting to take.
So they're working it back into it.
I think he was 4-0 on draws last game. So,
which they need, because again, that last power play goal that they gave up, because they've given up 2 tonight, was a lost defensive zone draw for the power play, and New Jersey scored. They've been awful. I think Prashant just texted or tweeted something out saying that for the season, Detroit's the 8th worst with 40% on, let me double check it. When Wings shorthanded faceoff win percentage is 40.8% on the season, 8th worst in the league. And they've allowed 2 goals since he's tweeted that point. So
yeah. Well,
that'd be my only thing with Suter, but at the same time, I guess you're not really losing much with Suter because I don't think he's been that great on the draw anyway this year.
Exactly. But I mean, you are getting more help back. Robby Fabbri is also back. His first game. There was a cool little mini documentary thing that he released on like his kind of what happened in his way back from it. His 3rd ACL repair on the one non-hurt leg is now hurt. So it sucks, but he's done a ton of work to come back from it. He said that the 3rd is probably the worst he's had. But Robby Fabbri, the past 3 seasons, his WAR is at a 69%, 43 offense, 6 defense. But his goals per 60 is at a 93%. His A1 per 60 is at an 81. His finishing is at a 90. So Robby Fabbri has been effective offensively. He's also been effective on the PK at 52%. And it's a much needed, I guess, injection of talent. You take out Adam Ernie. Adam Ernie is sitting. Robby Fabbri is in. Robby Fabbri was also the reason Vrana was waived so that it could open up a roster spot. But Fabbri he's already having an impact on the lineup. You've seen him get a couple great chances and a couple great breakouts so far, and it's good to have him back because you're getting back to that healthy team. And this is where you say, hey, if Vrana is not getting back to game shape like he can or like you think he should, and it was also said that a couple Red Wings scouts were at the Vancouver versus Islanders game last night.
Hello.
Is Stevie looking at a Bo Horvat? I would say Quinn Hughes, but that's never going to happen. But is Stevie looking at a Bo Horvat? Do you package Vrana and a prospect and a pick for a Bo Horvat? Do you send them Vrana and Bertuzzi for a Bo Horvat? That's a rental player and a guy with 1 year left. You maybe retain a little bit of salary, throw in a late round pick or a mid round pick, and maybe you get something that way. But my fear with that is Horvat's going to want a lot of money. I think he's going to want over $8 million on a 7-year contract. And if you're locking up Larkin at 9+, that's 2 two centers. That's a second line center making over $8 million a year. So it's a little tough to swallow even with the cap going up. But
one could argue two second line centers.
But maybe shut up. But maybe that's what's happening right now. Maybe they're looking for a possible trade partner. And
I mean, Horvat's also 27 and he'll be 28 come April. So, I mean, if he's a guy looking for term, that's not someone that's Steve Yzerman's going to go out of his way for.
Unless you think that him alone plus what's on this roster right now and what you're keeping around and what's coming in is going to be a definite playoff team, like starting next season, which I think they should be a playoff team starting next season regardless.
Because I'll tell you right now, because he's having a hell of a year. And I think we talked about him a couple weeks ago, if I remember right, or maybe a month ago. He's got 42 points in 37 games, 28 goals and 14 assists. As a center, I think you kind of want something like that. I mean, just think of the fact that you had a Larkin, Horvat, Kasper, Kopp as your middle.
If Kopp is your fourth line center, you're doing something correct. And that also means you've pushed Veleno and Rasmussen to the wing.
Which isn't a bad thing. Because if you let Raz go ham, or even if that could even mean instead of Kopp, you've got Raz in there and you've got Kopp on the wing somewhere, which actually might be even more beneficial for him.
Yeah, looking at Horvat's chart, 89% WAR for a 3-year weighted average, 74 offense, 32 defense, power play 62, finishing of a 94, goals per 60, 80, A1 per 60, 65. So, I mean, he's a quality center. He's his first line center right now in Vancouver. And I mean, they say they're not rebuilding because initially when I said, hey, maybe trade for Bo Horvat, they're not going to take Bertuzzi though, because Bertuzzi is just as old and that's not really going to help if they're rebuilding. They say they're not rebuilding. They're doing the Ken Holland retooling or rebuilding on the fly. Yet they're saying they're willing to trade Bo Horvat and they're willing to trade Quinn Hughes. And Elias Pettersson, they said, is like their only untouchable, which to me doesn't make any sense. I think I would trade Elias Pettersson before Quinn Hughes.
If Pettersson's your only untouchable and Quinn Hughes isn't a part of that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's what I said. But I'm guessing that you're only going to get Quinn Hughes if you offer like 2 first-round picks and 3 really good prospects and some crazy package for him. Otherwise, to me, that doesn't make sense either. But that's another thing I thought about for Vrana is maybe they're waiving him to get him ready, give him more time in Grand Rapids, and then maybe try to trade him. Because you're looking at the lineup again and not being able to confidently factor in Vrana anywhere because you don't know where or when he is going to come back is kind of like I would think even a big sticking point for Yzerman. Because Yzerman is trying to plan and he's trying to get this team ready to go and he's trying to take that next step. But when you've got a guy who is coming back, hasn't played for a couple months, gets in for now what's his 4th game, and still is really, really rough, like looks lost at the AHL level, it's concerning.
You're looking at how they're playing tonight, and Mario texted me as we were going through, like, this is one of the best games they've played in quite a long time, in several weeks, them being Detroit. But they just haven't scored. So you got to wonder if he's in there for, say, a Suter on that third line. So you got Sonny, Fabbri, and Vrana right now. Does he score on one of the opportunities that they had at one point earlier in this game? Like, that is what you have to go off of. Now, again, Sonny helps you offensively and defensively. Does Vrana do that for you? Unfortunately not. And what I mean by that is that Sonny's got a vital role on the PK. Vrana would not. So now you're trying to move some guys around, and we're also trying not to get guys hurt again. Larkin, you got to be careful having him out there. Bert coming back, like, that's the other one. Where does he go? You got Zadina coming back. Where does he go? It's Zadina. I mean, he started the season scratch, so that is what it is. I think that's where he's going to end up going back to. But you want to make it seem easy, but Soderblom, he deserves to stay in this lineup. Berggren deserves to stay in this lineup. Foligno deserves to stay in this lineup. I get that he's a great goal scorer, but these guys are all making things happen in their own way, and they're here for the long haul, if you will. I understand that we're going to have to hurt somebody's feelings, but at the same time, like, is it a situation though? Then maybe it does become a flip. You scratch Ernie, or you waive Ernie and then bring Vrana back in? Is that what ends up happening there? But then you can scratch a guy like Sonny without having to lose him. So I feel like Sonny is going to be more valuable having to bring him back and forth. Or do you scratch a Kubalik, give him a couple of days off to give Vrana, see what can happen there? But it's hard to say that with Kubalik because he's got 28 points in 35 games. Like, you don't have anything from Vrana to argue that.
Yeah, the decisions are. I don't envy the Red Wings management right now.
No.
So before, like, you could just be like, oh my God, just get rid of this person and insert them in the lineup as soon as they're healthy. But now the team is deeper, and the team is getting better, and you have to make these hard decisions.
They're the 5th young roster in the league. I think they showed that highlight earlier.
Yeah, so it's good problems to have because it means that we're improving. But again, I don't envy the people that have to make the decisions because they're really hard decisions. And like you said, there are going to be some people whose feelings are going to get hurt. There's going to be a lot of fans that at some point are going to get angry. And it is where they are going to call for Yzerman's head, which is going to be the dumbest thing they could ever do. There was already a lot of people that were all over Yzerman for waiving Vrana, even though it didn't make sense. There were people that attacked Yzerman for it. That didn't make sense because Yzerman hasn't done anything yet that's screwed people over. And people keep trying to point to the Robert Hagg signing, and the only reason they did that was because Pissick got injured. But it's going to be tough, especially since Bertuzzi is going to be coming back, and so is Filip Zadina. So those are the two other pieces that I believe they said next week. Bertuzzi and Zadina should both be ready to go, and that's 2 more spots you need.
And they're going to have to cut a goalie. And now
they are. Yep.
It's not going to be Husso. That one's as clear as day. If we had last season's Ned, this would have been an easy decision. We'd already have 2 goaltenders. However, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, Ned, when we're talking about, is looking pretty good in Grand Rapids tonight. I'm not convinced that he's solidified himself to stay over Hellberg.
So I had initially said I need to see more out of Hellberg in order to say that. I've got a backlog of games of highlight reel saves by Nedeljkovic from last season. Yeah, they're saying he's killing it in Grand Rapids right now. This defense does not help him at all. And I've noticed that when Ned's in the net, the team plays like shit in front of him constantly.
It's like Howard's end of career.
It makes zero sense to me. Though Hellberg had a good outing. Now the 2 goals he let in were extremely soft. Neither should have ever gone in. It was absolutely stupid. But other than that, he made some highlight reel saves. He pulled one out on Sidney Crosby, and it was fantastic. And we end up winning that game, the last game of the year against the Penguins. And Hellberg looked good mostly doing it, except for the first period. Ned has looked good in stretches. Ned has looked absolutely terrible in other stretches. But again, Ned's gotten harder matchups. Ned's gotten tough road games. So to me, it's the easiest way to do it is also if you're trying to save money, Ned is the obvious choice. If he performs well in Grand Rapids and you can find a partner to trade him to, you keep Hellberg as a backup. It looks like Husso can handle the main load of games where maybe Hellberg only needs to play, 15, 16, 17 games down the stretch maybe. And you go from there. But I was not 100% ready to crown Ned gone this past week, but looking at it now, and again, depending on how he does in this stint down in Grand Rapids, a decision has to be made within the next week. And that's where it gets tough, because at this point, then you say, okay, well, now we have to waive Ernie if we want to keep giving Ned time down there, or it's okay, sorry, Ned, you're getting traded.
They've got the flexibility with Ernie and maybe even Lindstrom because Lindstrom is still a thing. If you didn't remember that by chance.
No, he was one of my waiver target. It was Lindstrom or Osterley were one of my waiver targets when Fabbri was ready to come back, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue Osterley because I get the idea of Lindstrom because now you've got your balance of left, right, all the way through defense, but Osterley hasn't played awful. He's been better than what we've seen from him in the past, I would argue. And the fact that he's helping push the offense a little bit better. I kind of like him. He's with Sherratt tonight, right? So I think that's going well. It's weird because it's, Wallman's getting that bump, but the way that he's now starting to activate with Seider back there, it's actually kind of fantastic. He also had a 99.5 mile an hour howitzer earlier in this game tonight.
Sorry, Sherratt is in the middle with Hronik. Kamada is with
he
Osterley.
is with Hronik. I did see that.
Yeah.
I think that was probably a shift that I saw. Anyways, but no, like Osterley, I think is safe. Lindstrom, I don't think you want to necessarily waive Lindstrom though, because you drop down to 6D, you're kind of risking something. Now, yes, there are plenty of guys in Grand Rapids that they could have go back and forth, which for us would be fantastic because now you're talking about guys like Edmondson, Johansson. Who else we got down there right now? You could see a Sabrango, Vero, really anyone on their defense right now could come up and play and do something. Or they bring up a Steven Camphor, even though I don't know if he would impact the veteran aspect of things, but I don't know. You could go for it and try to get away with it and see what happens. But I mean, other than that, is there about to be another goal waved off in the USA game? You can only get away with 3 goalies for one more week, I think. And then after that, it's like, I don't want to say in trouble, but you're going to have a lot of pissed off people again. But again, it's who's been performing recently. And Hellberg, you could be the one that's argued. I think it should still be Ned that they maintain, because if something crazy happens and Husso were to get hurt, I feel more comfortable with him long term.
Yeah, with goalies, it's who can carry the load down the stretch.
And I think that Ned would be the more appropriate, because we saw what he did last year. That wasn't a fluke. He did that in his short time in Carolina. We saw that he could come out and carry the load for this team and have no problem with it. Could he do it again? I think so. Could Hellberg do that? I don't know. I wouldn't say that he can't, because he's helped Team Sweden do very well in international play. So it's possible. But to me, it's Hellberg and Ernie. Those are your 2 guys that make room for Bert and Zadina. That's kind of where my head's at this point, because outside of that, I don't think any of these guys that are waiver eligible have been deserving of getting sent back.
Yeah, and Lalone even said as much. He said that they've been playing really well together. He's not going to send them down because they deserve to be here. They've each of them have positively impacted the team. Berggren positively impacts the team every time he has the puck. Soderblom's working. It seems like he's working on his defense as he goes, which is good to see. Like we said, he's starting to use his stick and his body more at the same time. His
skating has improved as the season's gone on, I feel like.
Yeah, Joe Veleno has become an impact player. So that line is very good. Now, Berggren is up playing on the second now, where he should be, where we have said he should be for this whole time. And again, we talk about Jake Wallman and Mo Seider as just a great pair. When you saw it in small stints, it was really good. And then it seems like being paired with Mo, that Wallman is now more confident to go in and make plays and shoot the puck and become more offensive, become defensive when he needs to be, allowing Mo to become offensive. So it seems like they're feeding off each other, because I think that Wallman and Seider have pretty similar play styles, though Wallman is a lot faster. They complement each other because they can both pick up when the other switches off. So if Mo knows he needs to play defensively, Wallman will pick up the offense. If Wallman sees that Mo is going to play offensively, Wallman will pick up the defense. So it works really well, and that's the one thing Sherratt couldn't do, is Sherratt just fell on his face every time he needed to be heavy defensively. So it works a lot better. So I think you're not going to waive. You said you could waive a Lindstrom. I'd waive a Lindstrom, no problem. I'd waive an Osterley, no problem. Doesn't matter.
I mean, I think you'd get away with either of those guys. Now, I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, because no, you would.
The thing is, both. Ryan, is that if you sent a Lindstrom down, if you waived him, he's not getting claimed. He goes to Grand Rapids, and if there's an injury, you just call him back up. That's what you do, because you know that he's not such a valuable piece that someone is going to claim him. So you Agreed. Probably waive a Lindstrom, or you waive an Osterley when Bertuzzi comes back. You end up waiving an Ernie when Zadina comes back. And you're still going to have to figure out some stuff with the roster, because you're going to end up at that point just giving players away if they're claimed. But again, you could do a goalie too, although Lalone says carrying 3 goalies isn't an issue for him.
Yeah, because now you're getting into the conversation piece of toward the end of Holland's tenure, where we're like, you're giving away these younger guys that should maybe be playing in the lineup for free. Now, granted, most of those didn't really pan out, but we're getting to that point with some of these guys of like, okay, can we make a trade here? But we look at the salary cap. No, you can't make a trade with anyone but maybe like 8 teams. So it's,
unless you take a more expensive player of theirs and give them your low value player,
which I think is still an expectation we can see coming up on this trade deadline.
Yeah, I think that's another thing we're going to have to start looking at, because the trade deadline will be fast approaching here pretty soon. But we're going to take a break really quick for a word from our sponsor before we close out tonight's episode. Hockey fans, light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame moneyline on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code THPN, bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game, and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. Minimum age and eligibility requirements apply. See show notes for details. And we're back. So to close out the night, I think we want to dive just a little bit more into the goaltending situation. Again, as everyone had probably seen, we talked about just a little bit that Alex Nedeljkovic was sent to Grand Rapids on a conditioning stint. We thought that maybe they were going to do that last week. Lalone had said that they hadn't talked about it, and then the news came out, I believe it was yesterday, that he was being sent down, or maybe it was today, that he was being sent down for a 3-game stint. To where everyone made the joke that, that's what happens when you get waived. So they're like, here comes the waiver. But Ned in his past 5 games is 1-4, lost to Florida, lost to Buffalo in a shootout, lost to Toronto, lost to LA, and a win against New York. His save percentage in those 5 games are 87-8, 88-2. He got the loss for the Toronto game, but he came in and had to make 12. He made 12 saves and had 100% save percent because the team lost the game. So he played well in that game. 81-0 in the game against New York, he was a 93% save percentage.
Some 2 brutal teams to get thrown into for not having a lot of games under your belt for the season.
Exactly, which is why I kind of take Ned's stats and cushion them a little bit, because if you've got 14 days off and then you come back against the Florida Panthers, like, that's not nice. That's not a nice situation to throw someone into. The same thing as if you've got like a week and a half off and then you come in as backup against Toronto. Like, that's also, you come in cold against the Toronto team who's already warmed up. And granted, he made the 12 saves he needed to make and close that game out. So Ned so far on the season, 9 games played, 2 wins, 4 losses, an 88 save percentage, a 409 goals against. It's bad. Those are bad numbers. You can't cut those anyway to make them look good. But again, and it's not like I'm making excuses for him, because I'm not. I've said Ned needs to be better, and he does. But Ned's getting tougher matchups. He's getting road games. He's getting put in after a ton of games off, like we just said, against good teams. And I think
he's also getting questionable defense in front of him.
Yeah, and the team seems to try a lot less in front when he's in net. So I think getting several starts in a row in Grand Rapids will be good for him. See if he gets that confidence back, and then bring him up and play him a couple games and see what happens.
Watch him go ham and just get 3 straight shutouts down there.
Why are we losing 3-0 now?
I have no idea. I saw that it was 3-0, and I'm looking through Twitter to see what the hell happened.
It looks like Husso was way out of net, and it rebounded right to the Devils.
For George's quick play-by-play on Twitter, McLeod is in the slot uncovered, makes it 3-0 after a attempted turnover there, but they brought it back the other way. And
Husso slid out and was about 4 feet to the right of the net, and there was no way to stop that puck.
But my laptop said screw you and stopped kind of making my stream go. So,
but yeah, I guess what would you do at this point with Ned, knowing that guys are coming back?
I get the sympathy for waiving Hellberg again. I mean, maybe the Yzerman's trying to play the case of, hey, this guy, he's been waived several times. Look at how he's playing. You actually kind of want to trade for him, don't you? I don't think he's going to get traded. But at the same time, with a guy like Ned, he's got the track record to back up the salary. And I don't feel like, I mean, you could argue that with Vrana, even because of what was going on there in $5.25 million. But Ned's making what, $3 million a year? Granted, it's only this year. I think Ned could be a more suitable trade goalie, but even taking off
who
half
needs
that,
a goalie?
who's going to go to? I mean, Edmonton.
Sure, love working with Ken Holland.
I mean, Edmonton would be a perfect scenario for him. You've got a team, but no, actually, no, it wouldn't, because they don't play defense either. So actually, that might even be worse. I feel like you want to have Ed for the remainder of the Ned over Hellberg, even though it hurts me to let those beautiful pads from Hellberg go away yet again, because he's going to get claimed. If he's not claimed, I'd be fucking amazed.
Well, to look at Hellberg's stats, the last 5, he is 3-2 with a win against Ottawa, a win against Pittsburgh, and a win against Dallas. And then a losses against Buffalo and Minnesota. Sorry, it was Ottawa. I said the wrong team at the beginning when the last game of the year. That was against Ottawa, which was another really good win. His save percentage in his last 5 games is a 91.3, an 85.3, a 100. That is he came in relief. Then an 85.7 and a 93.5 on the year. 4 games played. That is 2 wins, 2 losses, a save percentage of 89.7, a goals against of 274. I mean, 89.7 is not great. I mean, in any world, but a 274 goals against is not bad. I mean, It's better than Ned's over 4.
Yeah, and it's helping you win games and be a little bit more competitive, because we've complained so far to this point that Ned has had questionable goals allowed, and he's put this team behind the 8 ball several times over. That's why I keep making the comparison to Jimmy's kind of final year and a half, if you will, that he just couldn't stop a beach ball, it seemed like, and it put them behind the 8 ball. Now, granted, again, the team hasn't played overly great team defense in front of him, but at the same time, goalie's there to do something, and that's to make saves, and he hasn't been making it. Now, yes, there have been moments where it's just been like, oh shit, not going to make, there's no way he could have stopped that. And we've already seen that with Hellberg even. They need to make that one out of every couple to keep your team competitive. And that's what we're not seeing. That's where the frustration, I think, lies. I still got to think I stick with Ned. I do.
I think it's the ability to bounce back. We have seen Ned let in 1 or 2 soft goals and then get super rattled. Yeah. And just play frantically for the rest of the game, where we've seen Husso let in 1 or 2 and then bounce back and lock it down. And we've seen Hellberg let in like the 2 soft ones and then bounce back and lock it down. And if you look at league averages for goaltending over the past 10 seasons, starting in 2013-14, the average save percentage for a goalie was 91.4. In 2014-15, it goes up to a 91.5. But then every year it stays that in 2015-16, but then every year past that goes down. So right now, the league average save percentage is 90.5. And the league average goals against is 2.95. So that is up. Goals against is up. Save percentage is down. And I don't know if that's quality of goaltenders, because you've had some really good goaltenders leave the league in those years. But you've also had some really good players come in, and you've seen pad sizes shrink within that time frame. I think the next step is they could make nets bigger, but they want offense. That's the thing. They're trying to become an offensive league, and you don't want your team to be the one with a goalie that's letting in 5 goals a game, or True. They can't stop a beach ball.
I guess where my head's at, we got Husso signed for 3 more years. You got Ned signed through the end of this season at $3 million. That price point can drop. And now you've got a 26. He'll be 27 in 3 days from tonight of recording this. So he's about to have his birthday. If you can sign him for around $2 million for 2 to 3 more years.
Who, Hellberg?
Ned.
Oh, okay.
Hellberg's 31. He'll be 32 in April. Am I against having him as the backup for much cheaper? Not necessarily, but I'd also wouldn't be against Ned at 26, almost 27, also being a younger, available, and knowingly good backup as well, if that's what it came down to.
4-0. But, I mean, would you take Ned on an extension at $3 million to be your backup
No,
Or
he'd have to take less money.
would you take Hellberg at an extension of 1.5 to be your backup?
Well, I mean, you want the 1.5, but if you got Ned down to 2 mil, then I would say there's your backup.
But is maybe Ned discouraged by not being a full-time starter? That's the
He
other
could be,
thing.
but his play has also made that the case. Now, that also could also very well mean that he's on his way out because of it, and meaning that he's not going to want to talk a new contract because of the Hellberg situation.
And there are teams that need starting goaltending. So maybe he sees an opportunity somewhere else to go there and actually be a starter. And I think Hellberg's fine with being a backup as long as, he stays in one place for more than 3 months.
Right.
So,
I mean, we saw Detroit bring it. He was the original Detroit waiver claim, if you will, or attempt at the end of last season. So it's not like this is a chance moment with him being on this roster right now. So maybe the writing is on the wall. Maybe this is going to set up for him getting signed to another 1-year deal, and he does become your backup for Husso for the next season or two. And then maybe that is what opens your door, because you've got a guy that's 6'5" in Hellberg helping out a 6'6", 6'7" Kosa, get his legs under him, and then now takes over for Husso in 3 years.
I think goaltending, after not having like any of it for a very long time and having guys like McCollum and Jared Coro and just suffering through the goaltending quagmire that was the Detroit Red Wings farm system for that long, and now having guys like Kosa, who has been on and off. Grand Rapids goalies are not good, but
they haven't been good as a whole.
Having a Husso, having a Hellberg, having a Ned, hoping that Kosa puts it all together, and I have no reason to believe that he's not going to. Again, good problems to have. And Stevie always seems to be willing to just go pick up a goalie on the fly, which is another thing that could happen too. Stevie could go out and say, buy Ned and buy Hellberg and go pick up another backup in the offseason. Because I think Husso's your starter. And I think Husso's only going to get better.
But what scares me is that we thought this. I mean, we saw what Husso did last season. You could argue it's reminiscent of what Ned did in his final year with Carolina. So are we getting the fluff that we saw with Ned last year? And we have the regression like we saw next season? I would hope not. I doubt it. But I feel like you watch Husso, and to your point a little bit ago, he plays a much more calm game than Ned. You could argue that Ned is a little bit Mike Mrazek in the way he gets so crazy in there. But he's a little more of a sane Mrazek, if that even makes sense.
He's a more in his own net Mrazek, not a 15 feet in front of the net Mrazek.
I like that one. I'd be good either way. I kind of like Ned because he's 26. Granted, 27. I'm just going to say he's 27 from here on out. And Hellberg's 32. That's where my head's at, because if you think long term. But again, I go back to the counterpoint that I made. You got Hellberg with his size and the way that he plays could be a perfect example for Kosa the next 2 years of seeing how a guy that big in the NHL for as long as he has maintained himself and does everything that he does. This is why I don't envy being Steve Yzerman, because we can't even decide over it in conversation, even though it should be a little bit more cut and dry for us, being like, yeah, this is the guy we want, but it's not, because we like each guy for their own reasons.
We're about to be sad for reasons other than losing a lot of games. That's what it's going to be. But like we said, it's a good problem to have, because that means that we have more talent than we know what to do with. And what you do with it at that point is trade it. You can't really be mad, because you've got guys coming in that are better than the person being traded generally. They're not going to trade the better of the players, because that makes no sense. We're not trying to off cap. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially heading towards a trade deadline, because then again, you got another chance to move players as well and get pieces back for them and not have to waive people. But I think that's going to do it for us tonight. Ryan, we'll get your final thoughts before we sign off.
Final thoughts. Bad night for hockey. U.S. is down. I think they've been hosed on 2 separate occasions on goals. IIHF is a joke organization, and their rules are even worse, as well as their interpretations. And the New Jersey Devils can suck it. So other than that, we have a long week ahead. We may have to delay recording next week too to see what the hell happens, or we'll just have to record for sure. When we can't delay because we have a guest.
Yes, our guest we were supposed to have this week will be on next week.
And then we've got a guest every week from here on out, then, don't we?
Yes.
For
Besides
this month.
maybe the last week in January. We'll see. I've got people lined up.
Yeah, good to go. But no, other than that, I mean, it's frustrating tonight, especially because the Wings have actually played a great game of hockey. And for most of what I've been able to watch, because like I said, my computer decided to say fuck off. They've controlled play. They've been strong offensively. They just haven't finished. And that goes to the point of Vrana. Does he finish some of these opportunities that Detroit has had? I don't know. It still hasn't answered the call for how poor their penalty kill has been, as well as their penalty kill faceoffs, which again has screwed this team over tonight. So there's certain aspects of this team that just have to get better. And I just don't know. I don't have a good answer for it. So we'll see what happens. But other than that, Vrana's still a Red Wing, for lack of better words. He's still getting under contract. So be happy, I guess, in a way. But other than that, already Ryan 33.
My final thoughts are going to be go on your podcast platform of choice, drop us a review. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, go sub to our YouTube channel. All our content's over there. You can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You can follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. We'll give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network for hosting us. We also like to give a shout out to Vintage Detroit, which is the only place you should get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on. They're amazing people over there. If you use the promo code...
a white jersey to take over to them.
Great. Go do it, Ryan. Talk to Lynn. I haven't talked to her in a while. So,
ooh, speaking of, you need to get on that.
Yeah, I know. You can use promo code Grindline on Howie's Hockey Tape to get 10% off your order. Use that same promo code on Bring Hockey Back to get 12% off your order. You can check out our merch at redbubble.com by searching the Grindline. All of our merch is on there. And again, yeah, go to our YouTube and sub there and turn on the notifications to get alerted when new videos go live, like my 5-minute majors that I do when news comes out. And there will probably be news after we record next week. So I will definitely probably be doing another video. But that is going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.